Here we go, folks. Round two. I don't know what went wrong there, but for some reason the Facebook decided it didn't want me to do a live demo today. But here we are, persevering. We're going to give this a go, folks. So hopefully this will go fine. Live broadcasting is a wonderful experience. You should try it. Hay fever's bad. Excuse the throat today. But anyway, welcome to today's live demo here live on Facebook. We are here with Search Press today to talk a little bit about landscape watercolour painting and a little bit about what Search Press does. Of course, Search Press are the market leaders, in my opinion, the biggest art and craft publisher in the world. Wonderful, wonderful organisation. I've been working with Search Press now for almost 10 years, actually. Almost 10 years. We're celebrating 10 years of Search Press. Thank you for taking time out to join us. Apologies that the first stream didn't go smooth, but here we are, trying again. And we're going to paint a landscape scene. We've got a sheet of watercolour paper here. This is quarter imperial, 11 by 15 inch knot surface, which is a mid-grain surface stuck to a board, and it's £140. That's bloody expensive. That's the weight. That's the weight, not the price. And if we take a look at the palette, a beautiful clean palette, change the battery. It's all happening today. We're having so much fun today. I can't tell you how much I'm enjoying this. Okay, so let's make sure everything's going to go smooth. I've been doing this for such a long time now. It's bound to go wrong at some point. What we've got in front of us, folks, is the palette, and that palette contains lots and lots of colours. We'll talk a little bit about the colours. You don't need as many colours as what you can see there, by no means. All you need is just a few standard colours. 3 colours will get you painting. And if anyone's been taking part in my live virtual painting workshops, you'll know that 3 colours is all you need. And these 3 colours are primary colours, and you can do this picture today with 3 colours: yellow, blue and red. These are my own colours, available from Watercolour TV. You can see the website just sort of tucked away here in the corner. This is natural yellow light, natural blue, natural red, but any 3 primary colours will be absolutely brilliant for this particular picture, or any picture. Great. Okay, now here we've got a few extra colours that I'm going to be using, the likes of natural green light, natural green. These are my own versions of common colours, what I've had kind of manufactured to replicate nature. We'll talk more about the colours as we go through the demo, and we'll talk a little bit about brushes. But 3 brushes you can do this painting: a big, a medium and a small. Here we've got a 20, we've got a 10, we've got a 6. It doesn't matter if you haven't got those brushes. I will creep in some other brushes as well, which we'll talk a little bit about as we progress through the demo. So we'll talk about colours and paints as we go through. Yes, it will be a demo, so a pretty quick process. Cracking through. I've got a standard pencil. This one's just a 2B pencil, and what I want to do is do a little bit of sketching first with you, just a little tiny bit of sketching. I'm just going to grab a ruler. Actually, I'm going to grab a ruler here, and I want to sketch in a little bit of a building in this corner actually. So what I'm going to do for this, I want to mark some pencil lines, and I'll try and show you this a little bit clearer as we go through. So just bear with me while I do this, folks. I'm going to pop in 3 pencil lines here, pretty vertical lines, and then I want to pop a 4th one over this side. Now those lines are all vertical pencil lines, okay? I've just sketched them in the lower third of the picture. Let's turn those lines into a building. We'll zoom in a bit closer. We are live, so there's no editing as such. What we'll do is we will mark the middle, and we'll sketch that in so it's almost the apex of a building. We'll bring that down here. We'll bring that one down here as well. And then we'll go up like so. I'm going to get a bit of a rustic cottage in the foreground of this landscape painting. We'll pop that one there as well. So that's how you sketch a building. Keep it simple. Start with vertical lines. Introduce the roof into the equation. We'll pop in a bit of a chimney. Christmas is coming, so you need a chimney. What? So you just turn summer. We'll pop in a chimney. Pop that down like so, and that will help us to get some detail. That's all I want at this stage. I'll introduce other bits of detail as I progress through the painting. I want to sketch in some little wavy lines in the foreground, like so. And that's as far as I'm going to go. That's as far as I'm going to go on that particular stage of the picture. What I'm going to do next is take some little bits of masking tape and stick the masking tape to protect the building. Now feel free to use masking fluid. I'm not using it. I just want to show you that you don't have to. What is masking fluid? It's a liquid latex. It's a liquid latex. It has its lovers, it has its haters, but I'm not going to use it. I'm just going to use this here. This will be a nice simple little process. Protecting the building. The one bit we can't really protect is the chimney, but that's okay, that's fine. So you can see where to stick it. If you're not sure, watch the video back and you'll see exactly where to stick it. You can't go wrong with this. Literally little bits of masking tape stuck on. If you tap it on your fingers, what that'll do is that'll control the amount of seepage. And let's face it, nobody wants seepage. Now that might look a bit weird. Anticipation is half the fun. Let's come back on this. We're stuck down. We're stuck down. We're all set. Make sure it is nicely pressed. And then we're going to paint in a nice background, okay? That's the plan. Bear with us. You can smell the fear. Great. Okie dokie. Now, just while we kind of talking through here, make sure you have a look at some of my books, folks, all published with Search Press, of course. This particular one, Watercolour for the Absolute Beginner, it was published in 2013. It was my first book, and it still is a bestseller, okay? Now, it contains dozens of step-by-step painting tutorials. The second half of the book is very much how to paint completed pictures with, and this is a wonderful idea that Search Press came up with, was to have these beautiful fold-out tracings. So you can tell people that you sketched easy. Optional, of course, but it's there. The first half of the book is the watercolour companion, full of how to paint figures, including this wonderful chap here. Look at this fella here, look. See? Man having a wee in the rain. See? Couple in love, group of people, Foggy from Last of the Summer Wine walking his dog. It's all there. Loads of step-by-step. Look at these beautiful trees. How to paint trees. Beautiful step-by-step, folks. A very popular book for Search Press. And if anyone buys any books from this website here, watercolour.tv, all the W's watercolour.tv, you do get signed copies. Yes, you do. And make sure you check out the new book, Animals in Watercolour. 32 step-by-step tutorials with 32 tracings as well. That's the new book. Check it out, folks. Again, signed copies available on Watercolour TV. If you like your watercolours, that's what you need. You can't go wrong, really. Can't. It's a non-money back guarantee that you can't go wrong. Now what we'll do is paint in a nice sky here and then some landscape, and then we'll work on that. We'll introduce detail to it. This is going to be fun, folks. Down to the palette. Big brush is my first thing I want to use, and I'm going to be using a nice bright blue sky. Okay, now I do want to be using a fairly big brush, but before I prep any colours, I've got some water here. This is Derbyshire water. You can buy this in bottles. It's called Buxton. Premium stuff. You should try painting with it. What we'll do is we'll get the water and we're going to wet the sheet of paper, and we're going to cover it. Is it mere or is it moist? Make sure you cover the paper. And not a huge amount of water wants to go around that tape, so I'm being a little bit shy about putting the water because it will creep underneath. We will get seepage, but it's an old cottage. There's all sorts of things happen in, you know, old cottages. Is it called cottaging, or is that a different term? That's a different. So I apologise. Cut that bit out. Cut that bit out. What we'll do, cottaging. Is that a blast from the past? Oh yes. We'll bring it in. Sorry, I do apologise. Now I'll bring the water around very close to the masking tape here. Couple of coats of water. Beautiful cotton watercolour paper. This particular paper is called Matthew Palmer watercolour paper. Would you believe it? No. And where can you buy it from? Watercolour TV. Of course you can. All the materials you can buy from the art shop on Watercolour TV. Check it out, folks. Let's get the water on and let's paint in some landscape, some sky, some distance, and then we'll sort of build this entire thing up. Quick glance at the palette. I'm going to go straight in and grab this very pale sandy colour. This particular one is called Natural Yellow, but again you can mix all these colours from your 3 primary colours. So if you was to pop some yellow with a touch of red, it'll give you something similar. A touch of red being the key. A subtle yellow in the base of the sky, very subtle, you can see it's almost not there, is enough just to take away that white. On a beautiful sunny day, have a look at the horizon and you'll see this nice kind of soft hazy colour which often creeps in. So I'll pop that, make that colour slightly heavier to drop in a little bit down in the foreground. Just a few little bits here and there. It'll grow on you. This picture will grow on you. Like a Cliff Richard record, or mind you, there's probably some Cliff Richard fans on this demo. I apologise. Back to the palette. What we'll do here is take a bit of blue, because you can't beat a bit of blue on a Tuesday morning. Natural blue is the one I'm using here. Much heavier than the yellow. See that little wipe on the side? Top tip. Get the excess from the brush. Straight in with the blue. Ooh, beautiful. Natural blue is what I'm using, which is a sky blue. Now if you've not got natural blue, you could use cobalt blue here. You could use French ultramarine or something similar. But a very simple, traditional watercolour sky. Straight in, nice and easy, no messing, no messing. Straight in, beautiful. Can't go wrong. There we go. Now I am doing this as a demo, so pretty quick. If you do want to do what it says at the bottom of the screen here, a live virtual watercolour workshop, check out the links in the description for this video, including the one that's coming up this weekend. As I'm live here on the 22nd of June, I'm teaching a workshop of a steam train in a country setting. Very much step by step. Check out the information in the post for this video. Back down to the palette, folks. Still with this nice big brush. I'm going to bring in grey. Now, grey is interesting, is it? Not really. It's grey. 50 Shades of Grey is interesting. You should check that out. There's 3 of them. We're going to bring the grey into play here. Now, grey is mixed from blue with a bit of red and a bit of yellow. That's how you'd mix that grey. You can see it there. It's a shadow colour. It's an important one. Because there's shadows everywhere. Without shadows there's no life, so we need shadows in the painting. It all makes sense. Greens, yellow and blue make greens. There's a couple of greens here. We've got Natural Green Light, which is more of a lemon yellow based green, and the darker green here is more of a cadmium yellow based green. But basically all these colours are ready made to replicate nature. Natural Green Light and Natural Green. This one is Natural Grey. Again, all available on the website if you're interested in any of these. Just takes the pressure out of watercolour, because colours mixed like you'd mix them yourself. Okay? If that makes any sense. Hopefully it does. Let's start with the grey. 50 Shades of Grey. Notice that little wipe on the side, even on that kitchen paper as well, because that'll remove the excess colour for you, which will help to control the flow. And I mean the flow because it's a bit damp. This is a bit damp, okay? So I want to paint in some distant hills. Now I don't mind the fact that it's a bit damp, because it helps to create depth. So I'll bring that in, and we can refine this as we progress. So a bit of a misty, hazy, straight into that green. I'm going for the darker green. That's more like it. And notice how we can casually get those colours coming in to the hills. And then into the light green. Beautiful colour. Look at that rich, vibrant colours here. You can't go wrong, folks. Let's tilt it forward, you can see the colours better. So that mixture between the different colours is quite important. I've got the darker green working out from the masking tape, so that'll give us a nice edge. Beautiful, beautiful, realistic looking colours here. Love the greens. Nice. Just gonna get a bit more of the green, slightly darker. Same colour, just want to make sure it's nice and rich in the foreground. There it is. And then again, coming out from the masking tape and working it in, because the paper's still wet. I mean, that's the sign of a good paper. Now over this side we're going to have some trees, so we're okay over that side. We'll pop a bit of colour, but nothing really matters over that side. We're going to get some trees coming in. And as long as you don't touch your sky, it's not going to cauliflower. What does cauliflower mean? If you purchase Mr. Palmer's book on watercolour for the absolute beginner, it'll tell you all about cauliflowers. Trust me, I'm an artist. It's in there. It's all scripted, this, you know. It's all scripted. Making this green nice and heavy. Let's have a look at the palette. The colours are juicy, the colours are thick, the colours are heavy. Natural green here. No more water being applied, but thick watercolour. The paper's wet, so the water's on the paper, you see. There it is. And then again, we can work out from that masking tape. It just helps the building pop. It's almost like adding shadows. Love that. Really nice, effective area there. Okay, brilliant. Now what I want to do here is I want to give that a dry. I want to give it a dry. How am I going to dry this? Well, I've got a very interesting looking drying tool. See? It's got 2 speeds on it. This is like watching paint dry. I do apologise, but we'll put that on. Now that masking tape, what's here, is going to have some problems with paint creeping underneath. It's fine. It'll all become part of the picture. So at this point you can put the kettle on. Love the greens. Natural greens really do work. An absolute treat, folks. The books will tell you how to mix the colours. But a nice dry. You might notice it's probably hard to see, but the paper's gone a little bit wavy. But it will flatten. It will flatten. So a nice flash with the dryer. And as long as your hand's clean, once you're happy that it's pretty much dry, give it a gentle press. And that'll flatten the paper. I've kind of stretched the paper at this point. I never pre-stretch paper, I can't be bothered with it. What that means is wetting the paper top to bottom. So how did you spend your morning? Watching paint dry, basically. Exciting, isn't it? I love how you've got that misty, distant landscape there. That's nice and dry, folks. That is nice and dry. Brilliant. Okay, now we're going to work on the landscape next, and for this I'm going to be using a piece of card, a piece of paper. I've just got a scrap piece of paper here. I'm going to be using this, like a little bit of note paper, to add some landscape. Quick look at the palette, and I'm going to be using some different brushes here. I'm going to be using some tree and texture brushes, which are brushes that I've designed many years ago, designed for painting in beautiful trees and foliage, and we'll see those in action. for this stage of the picture. So using natural green again, it's a dark green, so if you're mixing these yourself, put plenty of blue with it. I also want some grey here as well, quite strong. Notice how that brush has got an angle to it. Again, all this stuff is available online. It's a beautiful sort of stippling brush. Can we get the camera to focus on that brush just about? There it is. There we go. Perfect. Okay, we're going to use this. We're going to use this. And what we're going to do, excuse me, we're going to bring this in probably about here. And we're going to stipple some distant trees. Now I can bring in some of the lighter green as well. You know, I don't want to be all dark with the colours. So we'll bring a little bit of the light green. And literally picking and mixing. Every time I pop the brush into the palette, I'll pick up a different colour. Like so. Can you see what it's doing? It's creating an edge. And we can have a few of these, as many as we like really. Leave a bit of a gap for the sheep to get through, of course. A nice stipple working around the masking tape, that'll help the building. So I'll get a bit closer in for you, you'll see the detail there. Little gentle stipples. Again, using the darker green is a great way of... Look how beautiful those trees are. I can get really close in for you there so you can see. Don't be afraid to add a bit of grey around the edges of these things as well. So imagine trees just poking up at the back of the cottage there, but can you see how clean that is? We've got mist, we've got distance. We're going to continue and add a few more of these. It's a good idea to use a different piece of card, a clean piece of card, every so often. So working back, making them thinner. Take that off. There you go. So make sure there's no paint down the back that's going to go on your paper. Let's pop one over here as well. Creating depth, creating distance. You can see how we can create hedgerows within a landscape. Nice effect, folks. Nice effect. This one. Give it a go. Tree and texture brushes. There's 4 different sizes available. They just make the whole process easy. There we go. Love that. Really nice there. Just want to make sure that's nice and dark at the bottom of there. These little touches you probably can't see that well on the stream, but they are there. They are there. Let's get really fine. I've turned the brush upside down, which means if you look at the brush, you can see it's got a long top to it. If I put that long top to the bottom, you can make thinner ones. So you start to get that recession. We don't want one of them, do we? A recession. Bring that in. There we go. Now at this stage, I'm going to put that brush away. I am going to pick up a different colour and a different brush. I'm going to grab a size 6 brush, and I'm going to use a grey for blending away and continuing to create some distant fields, but using grey will help it to fall back and almost appear as though it's in the background, disappearing into them there misty hills. Start to work up the hills, and eventually I'll make the colour lighter. Just popping the occasional dot and spot helps to give the impression of sort of distant trees as well, which is nice. There we go. If I wipe off some of the excess colour on some kitchen paper, I can be even thinner with the lines. little spots and dots. Definitely working into the landscape here. Notice these are getting very, very fine, these lines, to the point where they almost disappear off. Look at the depth you've created. You've created lots of depth. Look at the depth. The distance. If you look close, you can see some sheep in field, eh? One of them's got its head stuck in the railings. That's a joke I will not tell you, because it's before the watershed. We'll save that one. Should we do a midnight after watershed Mr. Palmer demo? We could probably do that. We'll make a note of that one. For over 18s. I love how you can create depth just with lines. That's what watercolour is. It's great for that. Let's come back a little bit here. You might notice I've done nothing over there. That's not because I forgot. I want to put some trees there, and that's what's going to come next. But just before that, I want to do a little bit of work around here. And what I want to do is put some shape and form into this area here, where the little gate post and fence post is. So I'm just going to basically use that darker green to add some, like a footpath, a bit of a trackway sweeping around the corner here. So this is just that darker green. I've got water on the brush here, and I'm just going to blend that across with water, so that line becomes part of the green area. So you can see that sort of one side of a track, let's say, and then we'll do the other side as well. So it's like sweeping, thinking a little bit about perspective, but not a huge amount. People get scared of perspective, but it's just making it wider as it gets closer to you, basically. So just using natural green. This is the darker one. This is the one I used in the sort of stippling with the brush there. Bring that across for you. Bring it over. Pop a few little lines coming back, and then just a bit of water, but give your brush a tap on tissue before you blend it, because it will wash off the underneath colour. But you can hopefully see how that creates a bit of an edge and a bit of a, just a bit of old farm excuse me, really got the hay fever today, really bad. It's the pollen in that field over there. Oh, some rapeseed over there, a rapeseed field. Okay, brilliant. So that is just giving me some interest, which is nice. I want to paint in a bit of a gateway, which is an old supermarket apparently. Used to be a summer field, I think. This helps to give scale. Now I am sticking with the same brush here, folks, I'll be honest, but you know something, if you haven't got a brush that's as fine as that, please don't worry. But can you see the little gate there? Look at that, hey? Beautiful. Gives scale. Gives a bit of scale to your picture. And we all like a bit of scale. Just going to pop a few little, come back on that, pop a few little shadows with grey coming out from this. Yeah, but where's your light coming from? Okay, so we'll say the light's kind of coming in from the left. But there's shadows, and there's cast shadows, and then there's shadows that work for your picture. This one is the shadow that works for the picture, which means I'm putting some dark colour, some grey flicks coming this way. And what that'll do, of course, is help the cottage stand forward. And we can use that as well to give some random shadows. The cloud passing over, casting the shadow into the picture. Look at that, that nice bit of grey. This is natural grey. Pick yourself up a tube of that, you can't go wrong. It really helps to give depth and shadow and form, even on the background fields a little bit as well, just a touch, not much. A slither. Beautiful little mini landscape forming in front of his eyes. Excellent. Okay, now we mentioned tree and texture brushes, and I was using the small one, which is this one here, but I want to move on to the big one. This is the large size, you can see it there, look. Tree and texture brush, beautiful. I'm going to use that, and I'm going to stipple. Clean the brush really well. Shake off the drips. Shake off the drips. I don't know why it is, but when I teach workshops with, you know, in-person workshops, and the men always seem to shake the drips off better than the women. Is it like a practice thing? Is it? I don't know. Maybe. You tell me. Anyway, sorry, we're going to use that. I'm going to mix the two greens together. Light green, dark green. If you've not got natural colours, then obviously you're not going to mix them together, but you can mix them from yellow and blues. Variations in greens. Stipple. This is called bashing the brush. Look how beautiful and spiky that brush has gone, eh? Matthew Palmer Tree and Texture Brushes. Check them out online, folks. What we're going to do here is get some trees and bushes in this corner next to the cottage. Look how beautiful they are. They are stunning, eh? Now, every so often, I'll be introducing some darker colour to this. It needs a bit of shadow, so I'm going to pick up some of that grey. It's in the palette. I've not cleaned the brush because I want the colours to mix, so plenty of this colour here. You can see I've gone right up to the edge of the cottage there. So I've worked in some shadows and some little bits of tonal work for these trees as well, especially with it being in the foreground as well. It kind of frames that area quite nicely. Come back a little bit so you can see the whole sort of thing. And then we'll pop some over here as well, so don't be afraid to use quite strong colours. Imagine these are foreground, you know, foliage, bushes. It frames the picture. Don't forget to put some grey in there, natural grey, because that really grounds it. With every stipple of the brush you get beautiful trees. Now, of course, if you've not got a tree and texture brush, then why? You need to get them. They make such a difference. Oil paint, acrylic and watercolours. These have been around since the late 90s. So I've been teaching since 1998, 99. You only thought I was 16, didn't you? But, you know. There you go. Beautiful. So that's given us a nice little bit of foreground. What I'd like to do with that, once I've got that real shadow in that corner, is introduce a palette knife. Something like this here. This little palette knife here. This one has seen some action. It's been through at least 3 world wars. There's only been 2. So you can see it. And what I want to do is just basically add some branches to these little things in the foreground. Turn the board on the side because we can. And we'll zoom in close to it. There you go. Let me see whether you can see this. Tilt it forward because the spotlights do reflect. And I'm going to use this knife to add some little bits of branches. Look how nice they are, and you know what a difference it makes putting those on. You can do as many or as few of these as you like, of course you can. Little flicks. I've seen them in concert. Little flicks. It's the budget version of Little Mix. The tribute act down here. In this corner. This will be a nice one. We can get a lovely one coming in. Little sort of scrapes with your knife. I mean, if you've not got a palette knife, you can actually use your fingernail for this. I mean, obviously it doesn't quite, it's possibly not as fine as this, but even like anything like a blunt knife would work. A palette knife's got that little bit of flexibility to it, which is good. But that's quite effective there. That's good. I'm happy with the way that's gone. What I want to do now, just to finish off that particular area of the scene, I'm just going to come back a little bit with the camera so we can see it. I just want to introduce a little bit of light in that area, just a touch, not a huge amount by any means. And for this, I like to use a piece of kitchen paper This one's almost done its 3 weeks, so it's getting towards the recycle bin now. But if there's a dry bit, and if you've got a square brush, a flat brush, this particular one, believe it or not, is a Matthew Palmer lift art brush. Okay? Like I say, it's all scripted. Bit of water through the fingers on the brush, and then it allows me to add some little bits of light here and there. This is not going to be a huge thing in the picture, but it's just one of those little, yeah, but where's your light coming from? One of them little things that you can just bring in just to give a bit of extra shape, and it just helps to calm things down. Like me, I could probably do some of that. Over this side of the picture here, I've had a week off, I'm enjoying this. Now over here, at the back of the cottage, make sure the tape is stuck. I want to paint in some tall trees. Tall trees are going to go in. And for this, I'm going to be using a rigger brush. If you're not sure what a rigger brush is, it's a pointy brush. My own rigger brush, it's called a Matthew Palmer branch and detail brush, which has got this beautiful pointy head to it. It's got this reservoir that holds lots and lots of colour. I'm going to take that. I've seen them as well, actually, many years ago. I'm giving away my taste in music. I don't really like Take That and Little Flakes. I'm more into Genesis and a bit of Phil Collins and a bit of progressive stuff. That's me. Anyway, natural grey. Natural grey. That's quite dark. It's too dark for a tree. What would I do? I'd bring in some sort of brown, so you could introduce some burnt umber or a bit of yellow and a bit of red, or in my particular case I've introduced some natural brown. Again, everything that you see here is available. Look at that beautiful brush there. It's got this gorgeous point on it, and of course if your brush is not pointed, there's wait for it, no point in using it. I'm waiting for the laughs. I mean, I'm used to not getting that, if I'm honest, so I should probably put some fake canned laughter on these demos. Now what I want to do here, folks, is I want to turn the board on its side, and we're going to be working at the back of the cottage here. Bear with me. You can smell the fear. What we'll do is we'll paint in some tall sort of cedar trees. I like these kind of trees. Like so. And then we'll get another one just creeping up here. Pop some little branches. There we go. Now, that looks as though the hurricane's passed through at the minute, but obviously we're going to put some leaf on it, some foliage, bring in some nice... These brushes are nice because you don't have to refill them, because this area holds colour, feeds the tip. Again, if you like my style of painting, folks, please do check out those virtual workshops. I've got one this Sunday, the 27th of June, but there's one pretty much every week, really. Head on over to the website watercolour.tv, or there's a link in the post. This Sunday we are painting a steam train, a picture of a steam train, not physically painting a steam train. A steam train in a country setting is what we're going to be doing, so it's going to be a nice one. So it's going to be a lovely one to do. Okay, that's given me some base to work. Pop that just there, and then we'll turn that into a tree. Nice and close. What we're going to do is use the small tree brush, but I just want to be a little bit cautious with the chimney. Your mother always told you to be cautious with your chimney, and that it's true. It's true. So let's be cautious with this chimney. We're going to pop some little teeny weeny bits. I mean, this is getting quite fiddly now, folks, but you know what? Sod the expense, we can do this. We can spare a little bit of tape here. If you don't want to use this, you could use masking fluid, but I'm just basically popping little bits of masking tape on. It's one of those that it just... I always think, I mean, the way I learnt to paint all them years ago, when I was a boy, I used to, you know, I had very minimal materials. I had 3 colours, I had 3 brushes, you know, and a bit of masking tape, and I was away. And that's all you need, you know. And that's the way I teach painting. That's the way I teach the workshops, 3 colours. And away you go. Away you go. Okay, so tree and texture brushes. We've been using them quite a bit on this, which is nice. Down to the palette. I've got the green. I've got the large tree brush. There's a large, medium and a small. I want plenty of green. I've got some grey if I need it as well. The shadows. I like the shadows. I've seen them as well, the shadows. No, I've not really. Would have been good to see them though. What do you think? Bit of shadow. Let's get some darkness coming in. This is grey here. Have a look out the window. Have you got some trees around where you're sat? Shadows are important. And bring that up nicely around the cottage so you can see why I wanted to protect the chimney. Then we'll put some little bits working a bit higher. So that's the massive foliage, if you like. But then I'm going to change over for the smaller tree and texture brush. Exactly the same process, but I want to turn this into a bit of a sort of cedar tree, if you like. And I like to do these trees. They're nice, and this brush is ideal for this. I spend a lot of time teaching painting retreats, painting holidays in the Lake District, and this is kind of what's in my mind here, I guess. Or maybe a bit of Yorkshire Dales or something going off. But just, you see lots of these tall trees. And I'll pop some more branches in later as we go through, but almost like little rows of stipples for these trees. Let's get the camera back up here. Just before that area dries, actually, I would like to do some of those scrapes with the palette knife again. Light against dark, all nicely working together. There we go. So that's just popped a bit of interest. Hopefully you can see that. There you go. When the paint's wet, the spotlights, the studio lights that we have here, we've got like 3 or 4 of them, and they all kind of reflect off the wet paint, so that's why it doesn't always show up when it's wet. Keep these going. Bring them in. Beautiful. So that's quite a nice effect there. Those nice kind of tall trees. We've all seen them. We've all seen them. They're really effective. I feel like I want to get a bit more trick over here as well. So while I've got this brush in hand, stippling away. Let me try and show you close in. Like I say, folks, we are live, so there's no editing on these demos as such. So it's a nice way of seeing close up here. We can zoom in. And of course, it's going to be lovely to get that cottage in. It's cottage in. A few little stipples over the top of here just to calm down those bits. And I'm in a situation now where I'm ready to remove the masking tape. You can smell the excitement, can't you? It's gone through the roof. Now, my advice to you is when you take the tape off, because this is where people come unstuck. Nothing, nothing. Church bells, I can hear them. Let's just dry it off. And at the same time as using the dryer, you can also slowly and carefully heat up your masking tape, because it loosens the adhesive. This is where we see what a wonderful job we've done of seepage. It also burns your fingers. Beautiful, beautiful. So we've got the blank canvas now, ready for a building, folks. Stick with us. We're going to paint in the building. That's the story so far. We have a very distant landscape, beautiful green foliage in the foreground, ready for a couple of white buildings. Super. Okie dokie. Now let's get close in here. And then let's paint in these buildings. We're talking about shadows. Shadows is what we're going to do. We're going to build them in, use the grey, use the number 6 brush, and create a nice looking, hopefully a nice looking building, okay? So natural grey is what I'm interested in. Let's pop some here. Medium sort of consistency. There it is. Number 6 brush, not too thick. Super. Again, the book, the Search Press book, especially this one here, folks, really breaks it down for you. It's packed with loads and loads of tutorials. Please do check them out, folks, these books. Again, you can get signed copies on watercolour.tv. This particular one, Watercolour for the Absolute Beginner, is a bestseller for Search Press. It's up there in their sort of top 20 best-selling books of all time. So it's a very popular one, and for good cause as well, because it's completely rammed with step-by-step lessons. I mean, look, trees, reflections, skies, how to mix colours, it's all in there. It's all in there. And of course, the brand new one, ready to paint animals in 30 minutes. That one only came out a couple of months ago. 30 tutorials on painting portraits of animals. Penguins there, look, beautiful penguins. Flamingos. There's a self-portrait of Mr. Palmer. Rabbit there. Cats, birds, cockerels, tigers, lions, zebras. And at the beginning of the book you get these wonderful outlines on tracing paper. So a beautiful book, very thick book. Again, you can buy them on Watercolour TV. Let's put some shadows in. Let's put some shadows in. Starting with the cottage chimney here. Where's your light coming from? It's coming in from the left. So we'll pop that in there first. Bring it down here. You've ruined it. Bring that down. Number 6 brush or a size 9 brush. But if you are using a size 9 brush, just turn it the other way around. It's a double brush. Bags of water, blend it in, don't be afraid, be terrified, bring it in, bit of water, fetch that grey, keep cleaning your brush, keep tapping it on a bit of kitchen paper all the time, and eventually what happens is you just end up blending the paint away. Blending can be a difficult technique, certainly one to practice if you've never done blending before, you've never lived. Just try it, folks, and don't be afraid to blend. We're also going to pull a shadow under here as well, under the eaves. Water, a couple of taps on tissue, and just blend that down, and that starts to give you the overhang of the building. And of course here we want a similar shadow, but because this is the extension, bring that down. Because there's two that meet, I want a separation shadow as well here. So water is going to feature in there as well. And we're going to soften that down. Like so. Just keep sticking your brush in the water, tapping it on a bit of kitchen paper, and just smooth out those shadows. Watercolour paint's fugitive, so it's very easy to blend paint. Let's get close into that as well, because I can actually, while the brush is damp, I can drag out a couple of little lines from that edge. It just helps to create almost an effect of old rustic stonework. And talking about old rustic stonework, I'm just going to pop in some little bits. It's a white rendered cottage, but a few little flicks here and there. Again, little flicks. Check them out on Facebook. Bring it in. Talking about Facebook, Matthew Palmer Artist is the page. Make sure you hit like. We've also got a watercolour group as well, which is a great place to discuss all things watercolour. It's free to join. Matthew Palmer's watercolour group is what you want. And yeah, it's a great little community with about 3,000 members. So make sure you check that out, folks, as well. Beautiful. Again, just a bit of water. So this is all, it's all the starting stage of this thing, you know. It'll improve with age, just like me. And let's put the roof on now. What colour do I want for the roof? Like a orangey terracotta. I think could work nice here. Down to the palette. I've got a colour. Let's clean some space up. A few people asked me about the palette. This is my own designer palette. Would you believe it? Would you believe it? Would you believe it? And it's called the Matthew Palmer Easy Clean palette. This colour here, folks, is natural orange. It's a lovely terracotta colour. I tend to have a second colour which is a bit of a browny grey at the side as well, just to get that nice bit of variation. But oranges and reds, I mean, if you're obviously using primary colours, mix some yellow and red together. But here I've mixed a bit of a terracotta colour. I can just introduce a bit of red. It's natural orange with a touch of red, and then that's kind of a bit of a mucky grey from the corner of the palette. And I'm going to put the roof on, a nice orange sort of roof. Just before I do that, I just feel the need to go in and tidy up the edge. You know where the masking tape came off? Make sure it's all clean and there's no areas. So I'm just making sure things are crisp and tidy, and that's true for all around the cottage really. Up the side of the chimney, I beg your pardon, and oh matron, just bring that in. Make sure it's all nice and dark. Nice. It's just a way of cleaning up any little blobs that you missed. Just chuck a bit of grey on it, you can't go wrong really. Fabulous. Okay, let's use some of this terracotta, what we've mixed there. It's a nice colour to add here. And we're going to go in and we're going to paint this thing, the roof of the cottage. I'll put some shadow work in this. Anticipation's half the fun, remember. Across the top there. Fairly dry with the brush, which means I've not got a saturated colour. But I like to see that the orange colours, the terracotta colours, really do stand out beautifully against green. They just really work nice with green. Little bit down here as well. Sort of coming down the edge. That's a little bit of roof just creeping down there. Even a bit on the top of the chimney. A little bit of stonework at the top. And of course we'll pop some pots in as well. We'll get some shadows on there as well. So stick with us, stick with us. Down here, obviously. But actually I want to go darker. So this is the sort of grey, brown, mucky colour that I mentioned. And while that's on the brush, I'm just going to introduce a little piece in and around here. So I'm basically, let's get closer in, I'm basically introducing darkness as well. And then I can move back into the orange for doing this part of the roof. Making sure that dark blends with the light. And it makes an interesting roof colour, which is great. You can add as many little bits of detail in as you like, you know, pop some little lines going in opposite directions and various things, but really keep it simple in my opinion. Put some birds on the roof, that's a bearded chuff. It all helps. Sound, there's a pound. I also want to go in with some grey. Coming right down there. And really going dark underneath there as well. And also here. Just using a damp brush, just very gently feather, which is a softer blend. Basically, it's like almost a dry brush, but look how that adds detail to that cottage. Beautiful. Obviously, what's missing here is a few windows and doors and various things, and that's what I want to bring into it now. Just a little hint of. And we can just paint these in. I mean, feel free to sketch them, but my advice to you with windows is just do little L shapes. Okay, we'll pop one just here. Now I'm using that same dark grey that I was just using, so I'll pop a few of these in. Bring it coming down here. Pop a couple over there. Down there as well, of course. And then we'll have a bit of a doorway, I think. I like to paint them open, doorways, so we can just bring that in. Like so, and maybe even a smaller window just here as well. And then I'll clean the brush. Look at that piece of tissue there. I want to give that away. If you pop your name and address on a stamped addressed envelope, send it in. Living it past, Mr. Palmer, living it past. What you'll do is you can stand a chance of winning this piece of used kitchen paper. I'm using water here to scrub and move the paint to make it look as though you're sort of looking into them. Beautiful. Nice, yeah? So its depth is created. We'll pop some windows in there. The terracotta colour that I was using, only used to pop in a bit of a windowsill. In lintels, of course. I'll pop some panes of glass on there. But while that's drying off, I'm going to do something down here at the bottom. You'll be relieved to hear. Some foliage, okay, to ground it together. So we'll come back and put the finishing touches on the cottage a little bit later on. A few little bits I can do while I've got grey on the brush. Pop little bits of darkness along the edge of the footpath. This is just that grey. You can see it in the palette here. Look, it's all a bit messy, but I'm just picking up little bits of darkness here and there on the brush, and then you can see I can just put little bits of detail in as you go through. But it really is coming together. I mean, if you look back at the whole picture here, you can see how it's kind of shaping up. It just needs something here, some foreground foliage. Look at the distance. We've got distance. We've got a lot of it, folks, and we've created it all from a white piece of paper. Very minimal sketching, of course. And let's put some flowers and some foliage into this foreground to finish off. So if you're watching this back at a later stage, remember that we did originally film this live as of the 22nd of June 2021. So please make sure you check out the Watercolour TV. Have a look when the latest workshop is on. The one that's on this Sunday, of course, is a steam train in a country setting. But there's one every week, pretty much. The latest one will be on watercolour.tv. Click the workshop tab and you'll see when and where and what picture it is. And it's all painted from the comfort of your own home. So you don't have to worry about leaving, and you can watch it at any time. It normally starts at 10 AM UK time, but it's yours to keep forever. It's yours to keep forever, so you can basically just enjoy and paint whenever you like. Whenever you like. Okay, beautiful. What we're going to do now is take that big tree brush again and some nice light green. There it is. Natural green light. We've got the dark green. And then we've got some grey as well. All got a bit mixed up, which would be nice. I'm going to stipple the tree and texture brush, the large Matthew Palmer tree and texture brush, pop it on, create shape, form, texture, and basically add some interest to this foreground area. I'm going to merge it into what we've already done over here as well. Try and be a bit darker at the bottom. So very gentle taps of the brush. Make sure you get that darkness at the base. Always important to darken the base. It just frames the picture. So this is the grey I'm using. People often ask, do these brushes work for oil painting? Well, yes, they do, absolutely. No problem there. So you can use them with acrylics, oils, gouache, watercolour. Obviously, if you're using with acrylics, make sure you keep the brush wet so it doesn't ruin the brush. And we'll just get those kind of merging in. Notice the little line I've left here, so you can almost see around the corner there, which is nice. Take those up there. Cottage, and then again we want some grey at the bottom just here, so it all kind of blends into one another. Beautiful. It all comes out in wash, don't it? It just kind of sits itself down at that point, which is really nice. I feel like we could put some colour around here, so I'm just going to do a little bit more refinement with the stipples. Make sure it all blends in. Fab. Okie dokie. So what I'll do now is give that a few seconds to dry. Taking some grey on the building. A couple of little bits of detail on the building I want to bring in. Sort of painting some windows here, so we'll pop those little dark spots. We'll give you the windows. The doorway, I want it open, so I want to paint a dark line inside it. Come back to that in a minute. Pop some panes of glass. Inside those. There we go. And then just kind of pull that over a little bit, and that'll give the impression as though you can see inside the doorway. Squeaky palette. Nice. I want to get some dry brush. Now dry brush is the opposite of a wet brush, and it's kind of just got a bit of muck on it, and I'm just going to lightly add a bit of texture to the cottage. Making use of the paper. Can you see the brush has gone a bit spiky? Skimming the edge. Skim the edge. It just adds a bit of interest. Takes the blandness away from it, which is really nice. Just zoom back a little bit here. What I want to do is just have a little rummage around the palette and come up with maybe some red. I've got some natural red here, or some crimson. Let's have a bit of a clean up, shall we? Here's natural red. You could use rose madder here or something like that, but a nice kind of pale pinky red I think it'd be quite nice, just to add, you know, some little bits of colour in this foreground, little spots and dots, flowers, roses, whatever, rhododendrons, agacanthuraniums, you know what I mean. just a little bit. It's nice to get that bit of red in there actually. Sets it off quite nice actually. Also, I often like to use a little bit of white paint as well. I mean, this is just like a white gouache, white acrylic, white goulash, white watercolour, but from a tube. If you take a little bit of white from a tube on the tip of your brush, it's not a bad idea to pop in some little bits of white flowers, and you can get them overlapping, you see, so you can bring that area. Let's just get the camera down a touch there. There it is. So little bits of white. Brings it in quite nicely. Makes a focal point. Put as much or as little as you want on there, but just a few little bits of white flowers here and there scattered around. It's quite effective. Probably enough of those actually. Doesn't want too many of them. And of course, what would a landscape be without some bearded chuffs in the sky? So any dark colour that's in your palette, grey or whatever. Let's add some chuffs. There we are, there's a chuff. Let's have another chuff. It's a bearded chuff, spotted chuff, crested chuff. 3 chuffs. 3 chuffs in a picture. That's what you want, isn't it? Now, I'm going to pop a mount on this picture, a bevel mount, because you can't beat a good mount. We'll pop that on. It's always nice to see it in a frame. And let's take a look back at the picture first, because that's been a wonderful watercolour landscape project. I had a great time painting that with you. I hope you enjoyed it. We've got some tape on here. Yes, we have some tape on here. So this is just a bevel cut mount, which always frames the picture. Beautiful. Let's come back on the picture, starting with the gorgeous detail that's in the cottage, the flowers. A nice summery watercolour scene there, folks. Just pull the camera back. They're going to be all live, so no editing. And I just want to say a few things. First of all, a big thank you to Monica for helping out, setting the demo up today. Big thank you to Search Press as always. Keep an eye on Search Press, folks. Lots of new books coming out. I'm working on new books as we speak. Please check out these 2 books, as well as all my back catalogue, folks. Watercolour for the Absolute Beginner, and of course the brand new book on animals in watercolour. And a few things to mention. Check out the old watercolour workshops. Head on over to watercolour.tv. The latest one as of today, the 22nd of June, is the 27th of June. We're painting a steam train in a country setting. Very much a step-by-step watercolour workshop for you guys to enjoy. But the latest one will be on the workshop tab on the website. Check out Facebook, Matthew Palmer Artist. Please make sure you keep an eye on Search Press. Again, big thank you to everybody at Search Press. And thank you for watching. And I'll see you next time for more watercolour painting. And make sure you keep that paint a-flowing. Take care.